Hi guys, I'm back again with some more stories for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP's mom, who had an affair behind OP's dad's back, and now demands he supports her children with her affair partner, as they are struggling financially. Listen to the story to find out all the details, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My parents divorced when I was 8 after a rocky marriage. Mom went straight from my dad to her husband, Dan. I was never shocked that she cheated, and I hated Dan. Mom knew it too, and it broke her heart because she hoped to get a primary custody, but I wanted to live with my dad. Dan had a daughter who was a baby when he and my mom started dating, and they had 2 boys together as well. Then Dan lost his job and crap hit the fan. My mom went to my dad to try and offer more child support to support the whole family, but he used it to get more custody of me. It worked. My mom and Dan ended up sending his daughter to Dan's sister, and they lived in a 1-bedroom place with the boys for 4 years before getting back on their feet. Mom hated Dad for it. I think she always thought it would make me hate him for it too. She thought I loved Dan's daughter and the boys, and would hate him for separating us all. But I hated Dan more than I loved any of them. I also saw my mom different for being with someone like him, but whatever. I'm now 22, and Mom and I are in a very bad place because she feels like I sided with someone who isn't a good person. She told me my dad let kids go without food, clothes, and forced the family to separate from 2 of their kids and live in tight quarters out of spite for her. She said he hurt my family, and I should care about that. I told her I didn't care at all, and she was pissed. Am I the a-hole? For people who will ask why I hate Dan, he made fun of my last name, it's Irish, and started using his last name as mine when full names were used, and they were just dating back then. Oh, and he hated my first name too. Basically, he said my name didn't make sense. He told me to stop dressing like a boy because I wouldn't wear a dress to his and my mom's wedding. OP's parents divorced when OP was 8, and OP's mom found a new husband. OP's father's only obligation at that point was to OP, and from the sounds of it, he more than fulfilled that and loved OP. OP's mom doesn't get to try to make OP hate her father just because she made poor life choices and didn't like dealing with the consequences. Does it suck OP and her half and step-siblings were split up? Sure, but that isn't OP's dad's fault, nor his responsibility to remedy. He's OP's parent, not theirs, and he made sure to take care of OP. OP's mom is delusional if she thinks her children are her ex's responsibility, and it says a lot about her character that she tried to use this to turn OP against a father, who from the sounds of it, has been nothing but loving and supportive of OP. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Irish52 says, not the a-hole. Forgive me, but your mom sounds like a real piece of work. Your father has no responsibility to financially support someone else's family. Your father's responsibility was to his family, and that's it. Your mom seems to have some very misplaced anger and resentment. FetPet1 says, absolutely not. Once they divorced, his obligations to financially support her ended, and he only had an obligation to you, period. Child support isn't money that is used to support her or other children, but to support you. Their financial situation was entirely on them, and no one else. Magical Girl God says, not the a-hole. She chose the man. She chose the consequences. Your father did not let children go hungry. Your mother tried to manipulate your dad, and it didn't work well for her. Now she's trying to manipulate you to dislike him. Also, did she get government help? Get a job? Did she actively do things with her aggressive husband to provide for you guys after Dan lost his job? It sounds like she sort of expected your dad to swoop in and save her, and when he didn't, she threw her hands up and went, "There's nothing I can do. My ex is letting my children starve." I'd remind her that her husband was incredibly rude to you. Why wouldn't you want to get far away from him? I'm just baffled that because a man had 1 child with her, your mother assumes he is responsible for every child she pops out, if they're the more successful dad. I feel for you having to navigate that mess. I, 16 female, live primarily with my dad. I see my mom 1 weekend a month. My mom has been married to her husband for 10 years. His daughter is the same age as me. Even though we were raised together, we are not close, and that bad relationship is the reason I no longer spend much time at my mom's. I won't ramble on about it. The story is my mom and her dad thought they were making a solid family unit. I had been an only child for 6 years. She had only just before we all met lost her sister, and them pushing us to be sisters pissed her off, and was kind of strange to me, because I was very literal as a little kid. Too literal at times, honestly. But the more they pushed, the more she acted out, because obviously she was still grieving pretty hard. Then it just became a thing of we couldn't stand being around each other. She hated sharing a room with me. I hated having to go to the same school as her. She hated having to attend my birthday celebrations. I hated people acting like we were best friends, or sisters for life. We had a pretty nasty fight, which led to the change in the parent I spent most of my time with. And I honestly live my life like she's not in mine, ever. So, my best friend wanted this Animal Crossing Switch cover and skin thing on Etsy. My mom's stepdaughter wanted a similar one, which I only knew about because my mom was asking her a month ago. I ordered the one my best friend wanted for her birthday Saturday. She was so happy. When we went back to school after spring break, crap hit the fan when my mom's stepdaughter found out what I got my best friend and told my mom, who was crazy over the fact I bought a friend something like that, but not my sister. I told my mom she can see us as sisters all she wants, but it doesn't mean we're ever going to have a relationship like she wants, and she should just let it go at this point. She told me it's crappy to buy something a friend wants, but not ever putting effort into what your family wants. I don't even buy her stepdaughter anything. I never have. She can spend her money if she wants, but I would never spend my money on that girl. Am I the a-hole? This is what happens when parents are desperate to make their blended family work. OP's mom's stepdaughter was grieving the loss of her actual sister, and they tried to replace her with OP. So of course they don't have much of a relationship. The only people in the wrong here are OP's mom and stepdad. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Amy This T35 says, "Not the a-hole. Your sister didn't want a sister, and you don't want a sister. They tried to force a relationship that just made everything worse. Now she looks for any reason to bring it up. I wonder, has this sister ever gotten you gifts with her money?" The Baddest Patsy says, "Not the a-hole. This is such a dumb conflict. Your mom could have easily bought it for her herself. She's really fighting with you about not considering your stepsister to be your BFF. And in that respect, it sounds like she's really let you both down and hurt you both by trying to force it." My cousin Tanya just got married. Everything was beautiful, and I had the honor of being part of the bridal party. Everyone in the party had a role to play, and mine was practically quality control, for lack of better words. I basically had to go around and make sure people were where they needed to be for pictures, activities, etc., to keep things moving. First, everything was like butter, but I realized my Aunt Carrie, mother of the bride, kept disappearing and making things fall behind. Not too much to deal with in the beginning, but it seemed like as the reception went on, Carrie kept making announcements to literally everyone she passed, and she had to step away for a minute because it was an emotional day. It started to become a scene, as seemingly every 20 minutes or so, you could see her dramatically wiping her face and climbing over people to speedwalk out of the hall to let it out. People quickly got annoyed, but didn't say anything, and I tried to ignore it myself, but it came to a head when Tanya was waiting for pictures and Carrie was nowhere to be found. I figured she was having a cry, but after 10 to 15 minutes, Tanya got really worried. A few of us went to search, and it took us nearly 30 minutes to locate her. By the time I get her back, it's been nearly an hour, and now things are thrown off. Tanya's tensions were high. On the way back, she kept repeating she's emotional and it's a big day. I told her I know, and for that reason she needs to get it together so things can move along smoothly and make less things for Tanya to worry about, and she can cry her eyes out when she gets home. She got quiet and didn't say anything else to me. We got back, took pictures, and things were good until I noticed yet again Carrie's gone. I asked around and heard she left and was met with a few dirty looks. Soon after, Tanya stormed over in tears and reamed me out about forcing her mother to leave and feel in the way. How today isn't about me, and I shouldn't be taking over. She also said a few rude things about me being single and jealous. I walked away because I was hurt. Tanya has always been my favorite cousin. At the bar, I was told by another family member that before Carrie left, she went around to a few people, including Tanya, and said I told her to leave, and she wasn't wanted there, so she was leaving to not be a distraction. I was livid. I tried texting Carrie, but she wouldn't respond, and Tanya wouldn't hear my side when I tried to explain. So I just apologized and left. It's been a few days, and I've been getting mean texts from different guests about how I ruin things, and I should get my own wedding to control. When Carrie finally responded, she just said next time to keep my mouth shut. I'm just really hurt, and now I'm being made to be an evil control freak just because I wanted my aunt to stop making scenes. Should I have just let her be dramatic the whole evening? Am I the a-hole? I think OP is not in the wrong here, but she should never have confronted her aunt directly. It would have been best to just be a conduit of information to Tanya. Aunt is the a-hole here. If she really loves her daughter, she wouldn't make a scene every couple of minutes. She's emotional, it's a big day. But that doesn't mean it's okay to cause a scene at your own daughter's wedding and lying about OP, who is just doing what she was asked to do. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Mononoke Girl 529 says, not the a-hole. Your aunt made the wedding about her, and for some reason, made you some sort of weird scapegoat. I wouldn't be attending any family gatherings again until I got an apology. Leela DFW 155 says, not the a-hole. Carrie had her routine down pat to keep drawing attention to herself. Everyone played along because they were likely to use it. You acted reasonably. However, in a dysfunctional family, healthy boundaries result in escalating and often aggressive behavior. You had no way of knowing in advance that you were dealing with emotionally aggressive people. Now you know. Stay away from all of them. Okay, I get helping to pay for some things when you are staying with someone, but I was just blown away when she gave me this rundown list for the things we did. She was my best friend. I had known her since I was 8, and we are now 50. Sure, we've grown apart since then, because now she lives in another country, and I rarely see her. But she kept begging us to come and visit her and her husband. They'd put us up for our entire stay, and even offered to throw my husband a 50th birthday party because we'd be there during his birthday. Quite honestly, if I invited someone to stay with me, there's no way I would be asking for any money from them. I can't imagine doing that. I was going to give her some money for things like the room they paid for when we went to another city and stayed over, but there were other things that I was like, wow, really? But she didn't simply ask for some money. She actually gave me an itemized list of what I owed her. Half of everything we did. My best friend, and she listed things down to the dime of what we owed her. Here's the list. $152.10. Stay at a hotel room in another city. Okay, I get this one. $105. Gas. For them driving us around town and out of town during our stay to show us the sights. $90. Birthday food for husband's birthday party. This one I get as well, I guess. But if you offer to throw a party for someone, you don't usually expect them to pay for half of it. $136.20. Car rental. When we flew to another island with them for a couple of days. I get this one as well. $21. Gas. I guess for driving around town. $6.50. Parking. For frickin' parking the car in the city one day. Really? $27. Airport parking. When we parked the car at the airport before taking a flight to the other island for 2 days. Really? Total, $537.80. I was just blown away by this. I would have given them a couple hundred to cover the hotel room and birthday food, but actually asking us to pay for the gas to drive us around and parking is ridiculous. Especially the measly $6.50. And the fact that it wasn't just $500, but $537.80. They asked us to come visit, and then unbeknownst to us, the whole time they were tallying up all the things we did to split the cost of everything. They came and stayed with us a few years earlier, and I certainly didn't give them a tally of the groceries they owed or the gas spent driving them around. You ask someone to stay with you, then you pay for things. RSPTK says, I had a similar experience with a friend I used to be close to. I had moved to a new city, and he was the only person I knew. Would invite me to hang out with his friends, and would often host parties at his place. It wouldn't be too bad at first, being asked to pick up minor items like paper plates or sodas. It all came to a head when I got a $500 Venmo request to pay for him to make steaks for all of his buddies. That's when I slowly realized that I was the only one that ever helped with his parties and get-togethers. Curious Penguin Sock says, there are 2 ways I would handle this. Both ways are a relationship ender. 1. Pay the money and let them know that no further contact will be had. I would be upfront that this was just crappy to do after the fact. 2. Let them know that if they expected money, that should have been said before you stayed, so you could see if you wanted to stay with them or do the things they suggested. They basically didn't give you the option to say if it was in budget, or if that was something you wanted bad enough to pay for. With friends like this, who needs enemies? Blind 30 says, I had a friend of a friend invite a group of 6 people over to her mom's house for some home-cooked Indian food once. We got there, and her mom started prepping the ingredients, talking us all through the process. Seemed a little odd, like whenever someone would attempt conversation outside of the meal prep, her or her daughter would kind of shush us and get back to the recipe walkthrough. When dinner was ready, conversation at the table was again always steered towards her mom's method of cooking. After we left, The daughter sent requests to everyone for $100 for the traditional Indian cooking and family dinner lesson. Everyone responded individually with their version of "what the duck," and only then did the daughter reveal that they were trying to get this going as a business for her mom, and we were the inaugural run. Nobody paid. Same girl saw me with my basic Canon Rebel camera once and tried to rope me into photographing her wedding for free. I'm not a photographer. My husband, 33 male, and I, 31 female, have two 8-year-old twin boys. We both work full-time, and my husband makes a little more than me, but just a little. We make enough to be financially secure. We can afford all the necessities and rent a 2-bedroom apartment. But we have never traveled, aside from weekend road trips, and probably won't be able to in the foreseeable future. My husband's family is quite well off. A few weeks ago, my mother-in-law called my husband and asked if he wanted to bring our kids to go on a trip with her. She apparently wanted to spend some time with her family. Her family, though, doesn't include me. She has always disliked me and never considered me part of her family, partly because I'm not religious. My husband is, but he respects my lack of belief, and also because she just doesn't like me. My husband knows this and hasn't ever forced me to interact with her, but he still talks to her occasionally. Anyhow, he told me that my mother-in-law had offered to pay for him and the boys to go on a 2-week trip with her around Thanksgiving time. I'm not invited. She said I'm not really her family, so she doesn't want to pay for me too. This is what she said word for word, according to my husband. She knows that we cannot afford for me to pay to come on this luxury trip. She can afford it pretty easily herself. I was pretty upset about this, because I'd love a break too. But I understand that the kids will love this, so I said that of course they should go. I tried to be cheerful about it, but my husband understood that I was upset. He asked my mother-in-law specifically to please invite me too, so that we can have a proper family trip. She reiterated that I might be his family, but I'm not her family. I told him not to push it, because I want my kids to have a good time without my husband and mother-in-law fighting during the trip. But I've been feeling pretty angry about the whole thing. So yesterday, when my son asked me why I wasn't more excited about the trip, I told him I wasn't coming because his grandma hates me. I said this in a bitter tone. They were pretty upset to hear this. Later, my husband told me I was an a-hole for dumping my feelings on my kids and making them feel guilty about looking forward to the trip. He said I was ruining it for them and also ruining their relationship with my mother-in-law. They're pretty close. And that I'm being selfish. So, do you think I'm in the wrong? J. Justin Graham says, "You're the a-hole purely because you hurt your kids. You weren't hurting your mother-in-law or husband. You made your son feel bad about something he has zero control over. That being said, your mother-in-law is obviously an a-hole, as is your husband for even entertaining the idea of going without you. But only one of the 3 a-holes in this situation deliberately hurt a child." Dwelton Shung says, "Not the a-hole, but why are you taking this crap? A good relationship between mother-in-law and your kids, with your misery as foundation? Imagine your kids being in this situation. How would you feel? Kids need to know that rudeness will not be tolerated, especially not from people deemed family. You got a husband problem, though. He's still very much a mummy's boy, and he's got no problems watching you suffer, as long as he still has mummy's attention. If my mother-in-law had the audacity to say I'm not family, I'd make sure she'd never see my kids again, because they're half mine after all, and they came out of me too." The Whirlwind Blitz says, "Honestly, not the a-hole. Mother-in-law likely talks crap about you to your kids, and they will notice and pick up on the hate between you and mother-in-law. It'll blow up when they get older. It did with me and my grandma. As soon as she realized I was like my dad, her own son, she didn't want me around anymore, and it hurt. Your sons will get hurt too. A person like your mother-in-law can't be civil in the long run.